Ladies and gentlemen, World Series of Fighting 8 was fun. With a big smile on my face, fun. This was a fun event to watch. It was at times campy, it was at times wacky, and it was at times out of whack, but it was never dull. And it wasn't really bad, except for some of the prelim streamed fights that were buffering constantly, especially as we got closer to the main card. But on the whole, I have to give this event a thumbs up. And it's in large part due to Twitter, because the Twitter comments when there were things going on in the cage or outside of the cage were just absolutely hilarious. So if you follow me at AngryMarks, I want to give you a big shout out for anything you tweeted tonight. And if you're somebody that was just using the hashtag WSOF8, big up to you too, because there were a lot of good comments on tonight's card. Let's break it down from start to finish. We opened at welterweight with Anderson's son Melo versus Jose Caceres, who I guess is the brother of Bruce Leroy Caceres, and he did not do well in this fight. He got heel hooked at a minute 10 and it was over. Then we had Freddy defeating Brunson Hansen in what was probably the most controversial fight of the night. It was a split decision that went 29-28 times 2 and 28-29 to Assunção, which left a lot of people wondering what the judges were scoring. Even World Series of Fighting president Ray Sefo was perplexed by this decision because Hansen was moving forward and was just better striking throughout the fight. And how that went his way, I don't know, but Assunção got a gift here. Alexis Villa defeated his opponent Sidamar Honorario via unanimous decision 30-27 and 29-28 times 2, largely due to takedowns, because that's all he really did was take Honorario down a bunch of times and didn't manage to do much else. But hey, what can you say? He won the fight. Derek Maymon had a slugfest with Scott Barrett, but this is when the buffering started to get really bad, so I'm going to have to watch the replay of this one. And big up to World Series Fighting and Ray Sefo, because they promised that all of the prelims would be uploaded to YouTube. So anybody who had streaming trouble, that will be resolved. You will be able to see replays of these fights. But from what we could see, Maymon was beating up Barrett pretty much the entire fight. He nearly had him finished in the first round, and then just kept pouring it on in the second and third. Couldn't get him done because Barrett was tough as nails, but he was beating him the entire fight. So it's kind of surprising that one of those rounds went to Barrett. I guess maybe the replay will show something different, but it sure seemed like he was on the losing side of an ass-kicking contest. Tyler Stinson defeated his opponent Arujo, and it was a TKO in the third round, 223. And it was a necessary TKO too, because he had been losing up to that point. His corner even told him, get a knockout in the third round or you're losing this fight. So he did. Always gotta love it when fighters listen to their corner. The opener on television was Luis Palomino defeating George Pitino with a KO at 2:40 of the second round. Very strong performance, and Pitino was looking game in the first round, but Palomino, he does fight like a crazed animal out there, and when he smells blood in the water, he goes for the kill. You can't say that he is not out there going for the gusto whenever he sees an opponent hurt. So if he doesn't mind the nickname, I guess that's fine with me. He got the big win here. Cody Bollinger and Tyson, and this is the fight where I said that Kenny Rice was openly laughing at the idea of Boost Mobile highlights. He did not even try to hide it. Boss Rutan buried this fight too. He said that if there was a prospective bantamweight title shot on the line here, neither one of them should get it. Well, Cody Bollinger might anyway, because he got a unanimous 29-28 decision. Personally, I had the second round 10-10. Maybe he could have even scored the third round that way too. I mean, these guys did nothing. And Bollinger, well, apparently he had a broken rib going into the fight, and that's why he wasn't doing anything, but if he was that hurt, he should have pulled out. Frankly, if he fights Marlon Moraes for the bantamweight title, if they set that up to make that title, then Marlon Moraes is going to eat him alive. Hurt or not hurt, Bollinger is going to get totally overwhelmed by him. Speaking of totally overwhelmed, Jessica Aguilar didn't need long to finish Ray. She got the arm triangle choke at 2:45 of the first round. Alita, I mean, you got to give her credit. She came in ready to fight, but she was just totally overmatched here. Most fun thing was that they both came out to mariachi music. And since Gray came out first and Aguilar didn't want to be shown up, she came out with luchadors. Everybody in her corner was wearing a lucha mask, like a Rey Mysterio mask. So, like I said, sometimes it was wacky, sometimes it was campy, sometimes there were production errors going on that I just don't think should be aired on national television. Like Boss Rutan openly asking the producer what rattle the cage meant and why he should be plugging it. We heard this conversation over the air on television, but be that as it may, good fights, entertaining show, good, bad, warts and all. And Aguilar, definitely no bad or warts about her. She just came out and smoked. Speaking of smoked, Anthony Johnson knocking out Mike Kyle at 2-3 of the first round. I'm not so sure I'm happy with him doing the diving punch after the fight was clearly over because he had already rocked Kyle with a right hook, but nobody seemed to want to mention it on commentary, which was kind of weird because Rutan and Rice had been all night long calling on anything bad that happened and being honest about it, but nobody mentioned this. In fact, the only person I saw mention it on Twitter was at Fight Opinion, which is Zach Arnold. So, hey Zach, I'm glad you noticed too because I thought that punch at the end was unnecessary. Whatever. Main event, Justin Gaethje quickly settled the issue with Richard Patishnock, and he was already a minus 1,000 favorite going into this fight, so I guess nobody should be surprised. He finished him at 109 of the first round via standing strikes when Patishnock just turned into a zombie, was just standing there and not responding to anything, and it was right for the referee to step in and stop the fight. So World Series of Fighting 8, a very memorable card. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Stevie J for Glove Up or Shut Up, and I'll see you next week when I cover UFC in Chicago for the Wrestling Observer.